April 1st, the Convention of 1833, a call for change in Mexican Texas. On April 1st, 1833, a gathering of concerned settlers in Mexican Texas converged in San Felipe de Austin, their voices united in a chorus of discontent. The Convention of 1833, as it became known, marked a pivotal moment in the history of Texas, as these determined individuals took a stand against the growing grievances that had been simmering beneath the surface of their relationship with the Mexican government. The seeds of discontent were sown by a series of policies enacted by the Mexican authorities, which had alienated the rapidly growing American population in Texas. The Mexican government's centralized tendencies, which aimed to exert greater control over the distant frontier territories, clashed with the Texans' desire for self-governance and local autonomy. Additionally, the Mexican government's attempts to regulate land titles and immigration further exacerbated tensions, as many Texans felt their rights were being trampled upon. Fueled by a yearning for a more equitable and representative system of government, the delegates of the Convention of 1833 drafted a series of petitions outlining their grievances and proposing reforms. These petitions addressed issues such as the abolishment of tariffs on goods entering Texas, the establishment of a separate state government, and the recognition of the rights of American settlers to their land grants. While the Mexican government initially dismissed the petitions, the Convention of 1833 served as a catalyst for further political mobilization among the Texas population. The delegates' bold statements of their rights and aspirations laid the groundwork for the growing movement for independence that would eventually erupt in 1836. Singapore becomes a British Crown colony. On April 1st, 1867, Singapore became a British Crown colony. This marked a significant change in the status of the city-state, which had been under British rule since 1819, but had previously been administered as a part of the British East India Company. The decision to make Singapore a crown colony was made by the British government in response to a number of factors, including the growing importance of Singapore as a commercial and strategic center in the region. The city-state had become a major entrepot for trade between Europe, Asia, and the Americas, and it was also seen as a key strategic asset in the British Empire's efforts to maintain its dominance in the Far East. The establishment of the Crown Colony of Singapore brought a number of changes to the city-state. The British government assumed direct control of the administration of Singapore, and it introduced a number of reforms, including the establishment of a new legal system and the introduction of representative government. The establishment of the Crown Colony of Singapore was a major turning point in the history of the city-state. It marked the beginning of a period of rapid economic and social development, and it helped to establish Singapore as a major player in the global economy. The sinking of the SS Atlantic. On April 1st, 1873, the White Star steamer SS Atlantic sank off the coast of Nova Scotia, killing 547 people. The sinking was one of the worst marine disasters of the 19th century and led to a number of reforms in maritime safety. The Atlantic was a steamship of 3,863 gross tons, launched in 1871. She was the flagship of the White Star Line and was considered one of the most luxurious and technologically advanced ships of her day. The Atlantic was on her 11th voyage from Liverpool to Boston when she struck an iceberg at 2:30 a.m. on April 1st, 1873. The collision ripped a hole in the ship's hull and caused her to begin to sink. The crew of the Atlantic launched lifeboats, but there were not enough for all of the passengers and the crew. As a result, many people were forced to jump into the icy water. The Atlantic sank with 12 minutes of the collision. Of the 902 people on board, only 355 survived. The sinking of the Atlantic was a major tragedy that shocked the world. The British government appointed a board of inquiry to investigate the cause of the disaster. The board found that the captain of the Atlantic, James Williams, had been negligent of his duties. He had failed to keep a proper lookout for icebergs and had not ordered the ship to slow down when he saw them. The board also found that the Atlantic was not adequately equipped for a disaster. She did not have enough lifeboats for all the passengers and crew, and her lifeboats were not properly equipped. The sinking of the Atlantic led to a number of reforms in maritime safety. The British government passed new laws requiring ships to carry enough lifeboats for all passengers and crew. The law also required ships to be equipped with better lifeboat launching systems. The sinking of the SS Atlantic also led to the development of new technologies for maritime safety. Lifeboats were made more seaworthy, and new methods were developed for launching lifeboats quickly and efficiently. The sinking of the Atlantic was a dark day in maritime history. However, the tragedy led to important reforms that helped to save lives in the years to come. 5 Forks, a decisive Union victory that sealed the fate of Petersburg. Amidst the stalemate that had gripped the siege of Petersburg for over 9 months, the Confederates found themselves facing a formidable adversary in General Philip Sheridan. On April 1, 1865, Sheridan's audacious leadership and the unwavering courage of his troops orchestrated a stunning victory at 5 Forks, a crucial crossroads south of Petersburg. This decisive Union triumph marked a pivotal turning point in the war, effectively sealing the fate of Petersburg and the Confederacy. The Battle of 5 Forks unfolded as Sheridan, recognizing the strategic importance of the crossroads, launched a series of audacious attacks against the Confederate forces under General George Pickett. The Confederates, caught off guard and outnumbered, were overwhelmed by Union firepower. The Confederate defeat at 5 Forks severed their last remaining supply line into Petersburg, leaving the city vulnerable to Union encirclement and eventual capture. News of the Union victory at 5 Forks reached General Robert E. Lee on the evening of April 1st, sending shockwaves through the Confederate ranks. Lee realized that Petersburg could no longer be held, and with the prospect of encirclement and annihilation looming, he made the agonizing decision to evacuate the city. Edgar Wallace, a pioneer of the modern thriller. Richard Horatio Edgar Wallace was born on April 1, 1875, in Greenwich, London, England. He was an English journalist, author, and playwright who is considered one of the pioneers of the modern thriller. Wallace was born into poverty and had a difficult childhood. He left school at the age of 12 and worked a variety of jobs, including as a journalist, a lawyer's clerk, and a private detective. In 1896, Wallace joined the British Army and served in South Africa during the Boer War. After the war, he returned to England and began writing full-time. Wallace's first novel, The Four Just Men, was published in 1905. The novel was a huge success and established Wallace as a popular author. Over the next 2 decades, Wallace wrote over 175 novels, including The Ringer, 1926, The Mind of Mr. J.G. Reader, 1929, and The Crimson Circle, 1922. He also wrote numerous short stories, plays, and screenplays. Wallace's novels were characterized by their fast-paced plots, suspenseful action, and colorful characters. He was a master of creating suspense and keeping readers guessing until the very end. Wallace's work had a profound influence on the development of the modern thriller. He's credited with popularizing the genre and helping to establish its conventions. Wallace died on February 10, 1932, in Hollywood, California. He was 56 years old.